Kia ora, today on Marae Investigates.
How will the arrival of the new Mana Party affect voters at this election? We've asked you the questions. Today we reveal the results of our latest Digipoll. And in an exclusive interview, Quade Cooper's mum explains how he ended up playing for the Wallabies.
Opportunity now for the Wallabies.
I don't care anymore. I'll even play for Australia. I just want to be in the World Cup. I just want to be playing rugby.
E ngā manu o te wao, kua kuru tohi mai rā ki tēnei pai. Ki te kai i ngā ora iti o ka hutore, e whakaratohia nei, tau mai rā, tau mai rā, tau mai rā, and welcome to this 1 hour special of Marae Investigates. With the general election just 8 weeks away, we've asked Māori voters which parties and politicians are winning their support. We approached 1,000 voters in the 4 weeks leading up to September the 20th. 655 were registered on the Māori roll. To discuss the results, we have a panel of politicians and experts, and of course Shane Taurima to keep them all in line.
Kia ora, Scotty. Yes, joining us is Māori Party co-leader Tariana Turia, Labour MP Shane Jones and Mana Party leader Hone Harawira. And crunching the numbers, we have political scientists Rawiri Taunui, Maria Barge and commentator Willie Jackson. Tēnā koutou and thank you all for coming in. Well, let's start with the big question, the party vote.
We asked if an election was held today, which party would you vote for? Labour came out in front on 38%, Māori Party gained 22%, National on 16%, ahead of Mana on 8.5%, the Greens made 6.5% and New Zealand First 5%.
Tariana Turia, let's begin with you. A drop by 14 points since our last Digipoll back in January, but 16 points since the 2008 election. Are you surprised? Are you disappointed?
Well, I'm not surprised because the party vote has never been something that the Māori Party have worked hard to get, even though this time we clearly would have liked to have done better because this time we are focusing on the party vote as well as the electorate vote. But we've always focused mainly on the electorate vote.
There has to be some level of disappointment, I suppose, because you've had a tough year. You've lost an MP, you've lost party members, some party members, you've lost some arguments around the cabinet table, and our poll today says you've lost some party vote support.
Well, I guess that, you know, we've got around about 7 weeks to the election. It clearly indicates to me that we've got to get out there and prepare a message to our people that restores their confidence in the Māori Party to give the Māori Party vote.
Are you surprised that half of that lost support has gone to the Mana Party?
No, I'm not surprised. I think it was always going to be inevitable that there would be votes lost to the Mana Party.
Hone Harawira, let me ask you about Māori Party support. Are you surprised that they've lost some support?
No, I think Tari's explained it quite well. I think Māori Dim were disappointed at the way the difference of opinion between myself and the rest of my colleagues was handled. I think they'll be particularly disappointed to find out how much it cost the Māori Party. I think they're disappointed in the continuing relationship between the Māori Party and ACT in particular, now that Don Brash has come back in. I think Māori Dim would have expected the Māori Party to say, that's it, we're out, we will not work with this guy. And while we're at it, neither do we like a lot of your anti-worker, anti-beneficiary, anti-Māori legislation either.
The government responsible for the allegedly anti-worker, anti-beneficiary actually has double the support that the Mana Party has, according to our poll. Are you surprised at that? I'm talking about National. They're on 16%, Mana registering at 8%.
Oh, look, if Mana's registering at 8% after we've only been going for a couple of months and we still haven't even announced who all of our candidates are, I think we're doing exceedingly well right now, Shane. I mean, I think the nomination dates don't close for some time yet, and by the time we get our full list up and we're ready to roll, I think you will see that increase hugely.
So in our next poll that we run, once you've announced your candidates and all that type of thing, will you be disappointed if you don't make that, if you don't close that gap or indeed exceed the party vote with National?
Look, I couldn't give two stuffs about National, quite frankly, Shane. I mean, when you're focusing on the people at the bottom end of the economics spectrum, which is where Mana wants to be, Māori, Pacifica, and non-Māori as well. I think we really don't care what National's support base is. We are after those who are in desperate need in this country.
Shane Jones, you must be happy because Labour has held their support. They've held their support, and you're slightly up on the last poll.
Well, Labour, in terms of its relationship with Māoridom, has morphed increasingly into a party vote entity. I think our people worked out pretty quickly that as Hone and Calvin's foray into the by-election showed, with you could actually get two for the price of one. And people shouldn't underestimate those Māori who do vote, of course not enough vote, that they're pretty sophisticated. They know that they can get a social equity party, and they've got a choice as to the quality of personality they like in the electorate.
But is that what Labour wants? Do they just want the party vote? I dare say that your electorate candidates, including yourself, want that electorate, that important electorate vote as well.
I mean, we're professional politicians endowed with great egos.
What does that mean?
Well, it means this: you put yourself up. Of course, you want to be voted in, but at the end of the day, an MMP is not first past the post. You put your professional credentials forward as an individual, and then you go out there and promote your policies. We are calling for both votes because we think that's the best way to stop John Key forming a new government with the Māori Party. But at the same time, we realise Māori voters, they have quickly worked out under MMP, they've got choices.
Interestingly, though, Labour hasn't picked up any support that's been lost from the Māori Party.
You know, Helen Clark showed us in 2002 you can lose within 2 to 3 weeks over 10% of your support. She showed us in 1996 when she went from 18.5% up to 29.5%. Within 2 to 3 weeks, things can rapidly change. So, ka pai, thank you for the Digipoll results, etc. But for those of us who are the pros, we just learn to live with these poll results and get out there and do the mahi.
Interesting take, Shane Jones. OK, let's have a look at the electorate vote. And remember, at the time of the poll, not all parties had announced their candidates.
We asked which party would your chosen electorate candidate be likely to come from. This time the Māori Party took the lead at 37.5, Labour just behind at 35, with the other parties, well, they were trailing well behind.
Tariana, let's begin again with you. It's neck and neck with Labour, but you've dropped 6 points from the last poll in January. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think it's the perception that's been created around the Māori Party about what we're doing, how we're doing, and our relationship with the National Party. I just want to clarify one thing. We don't have and never have had a relationship with ACT. Our coalition arrangement is with the National Party, not with the ACT Party. And I think that there have been particular perceptions created around our relationship with National, which of course means that our people who have had a long history with Labour, despite the fact that Labour has never produced for them, you know, that they are starting to think that the best bet for their buck is with the Labour Party.
Hone Harawira, doesn't this result show that for the Māori electorates, for the Māori seats, it's a two-horse race between Labour and Māori?
That's pretty difficult to contemplate, given that we haven't even announced all of our candidates at the moment, Shane, and certainly hadn't announced them by the time this poll came out. I suspect that if you'd put actual names in for the Tai Tokero, there would have been a huge change. You'd see very clearly that Hone Harawira is clearly ahead of both Calvin Davis and the other guy.
Well, let's look at that result because we actually did break it down.
Yeah, but you broke it down by party rather than by person.
And we will talk about that shortly. We will talk about it because the electorate vote, we broke it down into individual electorates. The sample size, as we know, it actually reduces, which means the results really only indicate trends, but there were some pretty interesting trends.
Yes, there were indeed some interesting trends. Into Tai Tokero, it was Labour in front on 30%. Mana just behind on 28.6% and the Māori Party at 22%.
Now, Hone, I know that it's a very small sample and you've just said, you know, if we had have named the candidates, and granted we didn't, but the poll does show that Labour could come through the middle. Let's just look at the trends. Labour could come through the middle and take the seat.
Yeah, that says that I'm not working as hard as I should be in the Tai Tokero. It means there's a lot more work that I have to do at home. It means that the issues on a national level may have to be put on the shelf and I get back home and do the work that I'm noted for around the kura, around work trusts, around beneficiaries, etc., etc.
Because that's what some commentators have said. They've said that you've overstretched yourself.
Yep.
And instead of focusing in on the electorate that you campaigned for, vigorously a few months ago in the by-election, you've lost touch almost with the electorate.
Yeah, that's a criticism I accept, Shane, and it's something that I really have to pick up my game on.
So will you be doing that? Will you be staying in the electorate, focusing your efforts, on Te Taitokera?
Absolutely.
Are you surprised with that result? Are you surprised in the fact that during the Taitokera by-election, if you like, commentators were saying Maori and mana, they're going to eat themselves, if you like. They're going to, because they're attracting the same sort of vote, Labour could come through the middle.
Well, I never ever see the Māori vote as only being split between mana and the Māori Party. The fact is that the Māori vote is quite volatile, and I believe that for the first time in a very, very long time, our people are starting to think more politically about where their alliances lay. And I think that's exciting because we haven't actually seen that a lot in the past. When our people voted for Labour, they voted with their feet. They didn't vote by thinking about what was important to them or even what Labour had ever done for them. Whereas now, the perception has changed considerably, and I'm pleased about it.
Would you consider doing a deal with either Labour or mana to avoid splitting that vote?
No.
Because?
No, because the Māori Party is the only Māori party in Parliament. We are the only party that clearly is there to only represent the interests of our people, regardless of where they sit on the economic scale. So no, we wouldn't.
Can I put the same question to you, Shane Jones? Do you think Labour could contemplate doing a deal with either mana or Māori to avoid splitting that vote?
Well, the first thing that I need to say in relation to what Tari's very lucidly outlined is that they are an appendage, whether we like it or not, of the National Party. That's the first thing. And they've done what they think is the best thing in the long-term interests of the Māori Party. And she may be proved right, she may not be proved right.
And we do have some results around that.
Yep.
Let's look at some results now, Shane Jones.
One other thing I'd just say is that it's open slather. The Māori voters, not enough vote, but those who do vote, they have sussed out. I don't have to follow what happened in Winston's time, Helen's time. It's an open game. Now, that's a little unnerving for a Māori politician, but deal with the facts.
It is an open game. And let's take a look now at our results for the seat that you're contesting, Tāmaki Makaurau. Because, as we can see on our screens now, it looks like Dr Sharples will keep his seat. Your reaction, your response?
Well, a bit like Hone, we've got to focus more on where people are. There's 23, I think 50% of the population in the Tāmaki Makaurau seat of Māori descent are under the age of 23. That's the first thing. I think that the responses I get on the ground are actually a lot stronger than that. Pita has a very strong personality, but then I'm not without a personality myself. But we've got to always be doing two things. Number one is promoting credentials, i.e. we are an alternative government, and at the same time, without getting into the sort of trivialisation of politics, promoting ourselves personally.
How, though, do you expect to gain some sort of, attract support when you're out there criticising the waka Māori that's being promoted as, quite a great kaupapa for Rugby World Cup, that's being taken on by the local iwi, if you like? How do you expect to attract support when you're talking like that, when you're criticising?
Yeah. What's the population of Ngāti Whātua Ki Ōrākei, Shane?
Well, you tell me.
No.
You're contesting the seat. Let's test your general knowledge of Tāmaki Makaurau. You tell me, how many?
The size of the Ngāti Whātua population, is infinitesimally small at Ōrākei when you look at the broad issues. I'm there for all the broad concerns.
So you're snubbing Ngāti Whātua?
No. First thing.
It sounds like it.
No, when $2 million was tossed out, nothing else happened for any other community of that nature in Tāmaki Makaurau or any else within Māoridom. It's a legitimate issue to highlight because it was a political gift given to Pita.
But maybe it's your approach, though, Mr Jones, and I put it to you in that respect, because you are marginalising voters here in Tāmaki Makaurau. You hear it out there in the streets. We've been down to and seen the waka for ourselves, and to be honest, it looks bloody great. Do you accept that you're marginalising your voters?
No, I don't think I am. I think I'm attracting actually a lot of interest in the issues that I raise, and I've kind of moved on from the Tapawaka issue. It was an issue that I highlighted. It created quite a bit of excitement. It annoyed a few people, but hey, that's politics.
Let's move on to another seat. Hone Harawira, you've just confirmed Annette Sykes, so we're going to take a look now at our Waiariki results. Sure. And according to our poll, she's got a lot of ground to make up. And I know you've just announced it, so we'll take that point. But she's currently 40 percentage points behind Te Urirua Flavel. You've got a lot of work there?
We do, but I was heartened. I've just come from Tauranga. There was a meeting last night, just a public meeting, not a branch meeting, not a amendment. There was 120 people there to support Annette. I'm picking up that kind of groundswell of support for Annette right throughout the district, from Whānau, Apanui, we're from Ahui and Kawerau, down in Tūrangi, even in Murupara, where the president of the Maori Party is from. We had a meeting yesterday afternoon. We had 50 people there. So the groundswell is certainly there for Annette, and I think they're really keen on the fact that she's the kind of person she is. She's strong, she's vibrant. She's not the sort of person who just goes along. She's a fighter.
Before we move over and I go and seek our feedback and our insights from our panel of esteemed commentators, I just want to briefly look at the Te Taitonga result. Because, Tariana Turia, commentators are saying that seat's looking quite vulnerable for the Māori Party. And I know Rahui Kātene has just launched her campaign. What's your reaction to that, to that result?
Well, commentators are saying that, but in actual fact, what you've got is a really hard-working Māori MP. For the first time ever, Te Taitonga has an MP who has gone right throughout Te Taitonga, working with their people. She did great work in Christchurch during that period of time. But the other issue is we cannot continue to trade on family names. It doesn't work anymore. And in fact, if we think back, Whetu lost that seat. So that whole notion that because he's a tiri kātene, that is going to somehow pull all the voters back to a Labour vote, it will not happen.